Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we have some very important news for the 2026 midterm elections out of the state of Iowa, where incumbent Republican Governor Kim Reynolds, who was eligible to run for a third term in office, has decided she will not be seeking re-election in 2026, leaving this governor's race to be open in the elections. Iowa Republican Governor Kim Reynolds announced she will not be seeking re-election after nearly 10 years of serving in the state's highest office, teeing up what may be a very competitive Republican primary in 2026 in the state. In a video announced on Friday, Reynolds thanked Iowans for their support throughout her political career and said she will not campaign for another term as governor and will focus on her family. She said, quote, "Today I want to share a personal decision with you, one that is not made lightly, but comes with a full heart and deep sense of gratitude. After a lot of thought, prayer, and conversations with my family, I've decided that I will not seek re-election in 2026. Reynolds began her political career in the Clark County Treasurer's office before winning elections as state senator and later as the state's lieutenant governor. She has served as governor since 2017, when then Governor Terry Branstad was confirmed by the U.S. Senate as ambassador to China during President Trump's first term in office. Reynolds was elected to a full term as governor in 2018 and then re-elected in 2022. This wasn't an easy decision because I love this state and I love serving you, Reynolds said in the video on social media, but when my term ends, I will have had the privilege of serving as your governor for almost 10 years. Reynolds said the work isn't over yet and is committed to working hard for every single day until my term ends, referring to her time as governor as the greatest honor of my life. The public service has always been an incredible journey, one that I wouldn't trade for anything, but as Iowans know, family is everything, she said. Through the years, my parents and my husband Kevin, our daughters, and our grandchildren have stood by my side, supporting me through every challenge and every victory. Now it's time for me to be there for them. Iowa-based Republican strategist Jimmy Centers, who served in the Reynolds administration, said her governorship is historic. For more than being the first female elected governor of Iowa, it's more than just her agenda. It's about what she accomplished as governor. She was bold, she went out and sold her vision, and she got it passed. Nicole Schlinger, a longtime Iowa and Washington, D.C.-based conservative strategist who's well connected with evangelical groups, said Reynolds has been a transformation governor. But Schilling told Fox News that Kim Reynolds has put a lot of things in her life on hold for the state of Iowa, and you're going to decide what you're doing for re-election in 2026. Now is the time you're going to make that decision. The Republican Governors Association also praised Reynolds for her bold vision and conservative leadership and says she delivered transformational results for Iowa. Iowa, which was once a key battleground state in the general election, has turned red over the past decade, and RGA Communications Director Courtney Alexander said, "We're confident Iowa will continue to remain in Republican control." But the rival Democratic Governors Association, pointing to Trump's sweeping and controversial agenda during his first 3 months back in the White House, said that even former RGA Chair Governor Kim Reynolds knows she can't defend her party's destruction of the economy and extreme unpopular agenda for the next 2 years. DGA Communications Director Sam Newton argued that, in addition to leaving behind a failed record of corruption, gutting public education, and banning abortion, Governor Reynolds has thrown the wide-open GOP field for her governor into complete chaos. We look forward to holding Iowa Republicans accountable as this competitive race ramps up. Following Reynolds' announcement, there was instant speculation that Iowa Attorney General Brenna Byrd, who's a top surrogate for now President Trump during the 2024 campaign, and who spoke at last summer's Republican National Convention, may make a bid to succeed the governor. Byrd, in a statement posted on social media, praised Reynolds but added that she and her husband will, quote, "consider what this decision means for our future. I appreciate the calls of encouragement I've already received. I am committed to continuing my work on behalf of Iowans and to support Donald Trump, or President Trump." Among Republicans who may also have interest in potentially running in 2026 to succeed Reynolds are longtime Agriculture Secretary Mike Nag, State House Speaker Pat Grassley, the grandson of longtime Senator Chuck Grassley, and all 4 members of Iowa's all-GOP congressional delegation, Representatives Bernadette Miller Meeks, Ashley Hinson, Zach Nunn, and Randy Feenstra. 2 other names that are being mentioned are Matt Whitaker, who ran statewide twice in Iowa but is known nationally for serving as U.S. Attorney General for a couple months during Trump's first term, and serving as U.S. Representative to NATO, and State Representative Bobby Kaufman, the son of a longtime Iowa GOP chair, Jeff Kaufman. Longtime Republican strategist David Kokel has worked in Iowa politics for decades, noted that Republicans have a deep bench. When it comes to the Democratic gubernatorial nomination, speculation centers on Iowa State Auditor Rob Sand, who is currently the only Democratic statewide office holder in the Hawkeye State. Reynolds, pointing to Iowa's shift to the right in recent election cycles, said the GOP will remain in great hands as the next generation of Iowa Republicans build on her legacy. Reynolds saw her national profile rise in recent years through her previous 10 years RGA chair and welcoming Republican presidential candidate to Iowa's First in the Nation presidential caucuses, which remained the lead-off contest in the race for the White House on the GOP calendar. In the race for 2024, Reynolds' endorsement was coveted by the crowded GOP primary field. Reynolds ultimately decided endorsing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and joined him repeatedly on the campaign trail in the lead-up to the caucuses. So that's where things stand on that front. As for a little bit more in depth, on the Republican side, Brad Sherman, a former state representative from the 91st District, has officially declared. As the article mentioned, Brenna Bird, the Attorney General, we're waiting for a decision from her. She would probably start out as the favorite based on what the article said about her and her ties to President Trump. I wouldn't be shocked unless Matthew Whitaker decides to run that Trump would probably endorse Brenna Bird for that race. But the representatives Feenstra, Hinson, Nag, Nunn, and Whitaker, all of which could be potential candidates as well. This Republican primary is going to take some time to sort out. Whoever Trump, if he does endorse in this primary, certainly would have a leg up over a lot of the other Republicans. Bird and Whitaker would be my guess for which two, if they both decide to run, would have the likeliest outcome of being endorsed by Trump. On the Democratic side of things, Paul Dahl, a bus driver and perennial candidate, has already announced he's running. Rob Sand, the Iowa State editor, is the another candidate who's publicly expressed interest. He, I think, would start out as the clear Democratic favorite in that primary, and someone that, being the only elected Democrat in the state of Iowa, certainly gives him a little bit of, I would say, a leg up over other Democrats and maybe can make this race even potentially competitive. And I'll explain to you why. So at the presidential level, we know about Iowa, and we know that's becoming more and more of a likely Republican state. Trump won it by 13.2% over Kamala Harris in 2024, which is really close to becoming a safe Republican state. In 2020, Trump won it by 8.2%. 2016, Trump won it by 9.4%. In 2012, Obama won it by 5.8%. So Iowa has moved a lot in the Republican direction towards being a likely Republican state and almost even a safe Republican state. Iowa, voting 13.2%, was right along with Texas, which voted for Trump by 13.7%. But at the governor level, well, it's actually pretty similar. In 2022, it reelected Kim Reynolds by 18.5% over her Democratic opponent. Back in 2018, which was a good night for the Democrats, Reynolds won a very close election over the Democrat by 2.7%, getting 50.26% to the Democrats' 47.53%. So even though 2018 was a very good night for the Democrats, Iowa was still very competitive, which plays into the question, what will 2026 be like? The historical expectation is 2026 should be a very good night for the Democrats based on the trend that usually the midterm election after the president's sworn in is usually a referendum on the president and the off party does well. Maybe that sets up Iowa for a potentially competitive election like we saw in 2018. But that also all remains to be seen as well, though. Back in 2014, the Republican night, the Republican Governor Branstad won re-election by 21.7%. Back in 2010, Branstad won by 9.6%. And then you have to go back to 2006, the last time Iowa elected a Democratic governor, and the Democrat won by 9.6%. So Iowa, I would say, starts out clearly in the Republican category, in the Republican advantage, but that doesn't mean it's 100% a shoo-in for 2026 either, based on the governor history. On the Senate side of things, Iowa's been a little bit more competitive than you may initially realize. Chuck Grassley won re-election in 2022 by 12.2% over the Democratic candidate, but back in 2020, Joni Ernst only won re-election by 6.5%. A likely Republican win, but very close to being lean Republican as well. So that could be a little bit of a warning sign for Republicans in Iowa, perhaps. 2016, Grassley won by 24.4%, and Joni Ernst was elected by 8.3% over the Democratic candidate Braley. So Iowa clearly shows that is a likely Republican state in the last few elections, but in a few elections here and there, it does show the signs of potentially being competitive. And let's just go down the hypothetical scenario that maybe 2026 ends up being like 2018, where overall for the governor's map, the Democrats won 51.4% of the national vote, Republicans won 48.3%. So that's about a 3-point win nationally for the Democrats over the Republicans in the 2018 governor's map. Is that possible for 2026? Well, I wouldn't say it's not impossible, we did see a lot of really close elections. For instance, Florida was a lot less Republican than it's going to be in 2026, but everything else is certainly very much in play. So maybe 2026, if the Democrats do really well, or if situations involving President Trump with the Republican Party goes south, maybe it could become a potential sleeper race in the state of Iowa. As for the 2026 governor's map right now, though, I do have the state of Iowa starting out likely for the Republicans right now. I have it being won by more than 5 points, but under 15 points. I think this is a good starting place. I think this is one that's certainly at least something to keep an eye on, because if the Democratic candidate does decide to run, he's probably the best Democratic candidate there is. Maybe a competitive Republican primary gets things a little nasty between some of the candidates. Maybe Iowa could kind of be very sneaky for being a competitive governor's race. At least with Iowa, even though it's been a likely Republican state, whenever you think it's fully gone one way, it kind of reverts back a little bit and shows that, no, it's still competitive, kind of like what Virginia did in 2021 with Glenn Youngkin. So I wouldn't exactly say Iowa's going to be like a battleground governor's race for 2026, but I don't think assuming it's like a 15-point Republican slam dunk is where I'm starting either. I think likely Republican is where I would begin it right now, and certainly one to monitor going forward the next few years. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. Please make sure to also leave a comment below telling me your thoughts about the Iowa's governor's race and anything you want to talk about there. Also, make sure to click subscribe, as I post 2 new videos every single day at 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. that you're not going to want to miss. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.